What's up, guys? Barry Gaming here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today we have Williams. So we have his skill card, and to be honest, this is one of the most, I guess I'd say, anticipated heroes for me in quite a while because he has damage reduction. He's got damage. He's got healing. He's got all the things you kind of need for like a first E5 hero to potentially be a thing. Now, do we even think he has a chance of overtaking Eloise? Now that's a tall tree to climb right there. But we're going to see what his skills look like, and he might just be a viable option. I've talked about in the past how viable Abyss heroes are in the early game. He might be another one. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let's talk about Williams. The other thing with this hero that is very nice is how simple the skill card is. He does have a couple keywords and they do come into play, but the cool thing with this hero is you can use him as either a support hero or a damage dealer based on a few things that we're going to talk about here. So let's just start with his active skill here, Redemption of Light and Shadow. Deals attack damage to backline enemies, so that's up to 4 targets in C lane, that's 3, not too bad, and restores self HP to a certain percentage of the damage dealt. So that's really good. It's not like a percent of attack or anything like that. It's literally based on a percentage of the total damage that he does against multiple targets. That's really, really good. Additional skill effects take place based on the current state of himself. He has 2 different states he can be in. He can either be in the Sense of Frenzy or the Will of Sanctity. So first, if he's in that Sense of Frenzy status, bleeds the target for several times, dealing attack damage for several rounds and increasing self-attack for several rounds. That's pretty good. It's putting a dot on there. It has synergy maybe with going with Wolf early game and also buffing his attack. Or if he's in his quote-unquote support mode, when he is under Will of Sanctity, he inflicts a certain percentage of attack as Divine Retribution on the target and increases all allies' holy damage for several rounds. So it's not like a pure support hero. It's still definitely damage oriented. But this is really, really cool. Moving on, we see everything we want to see at the very top here. Increased HP, increased attack, control immunity, and damage reduction. The fact that it says damage reduction there is probably one of the biggest deals when it comes to non-Transcendence heroes, especially in the early game. Getting that extra survivability is insanely huge when you don't have damage reduction coming from like treasure train, star spawn, artifacts, all these other locations. Just having it built in natively is such a difference in survivability. After that, the passive skill Craving for Benediction changes the basic attack to deals attack damage to random enemies. Don't know how many, with a chance to increase self's holy damage. That's pretty solid as well for several rounds, and restore self HP equal to a certain percentage of attack for several rounds. So we have the active skill doing big burst based on damage dealt healing, and then we also have the basic attack essentially putting a heal over time on our hero that's going to restore HP equal to a certain percentage of his own attack over the course of several rounds. That's really, really good. Would it be better if it was like a big burst heal? I don't know, because technically there's advantages for both. If you're missing health, of course, that instant heal is better. If you're already at full and you might take damage later, then the heal over time could play a better role. But it really comes down to how many enemies he hits with this extra part here. Again, everything sounds good. I just don't know if it's good enough to beat Eloise. We'll have to see. Lastly, Heart of Chaos. When a battle starts or when Self is in the battle as a substitute, if Self has a certain amount of energy, he grants himself Sense of Frenzy until the end of battle. If Self has less than a certain number of energy, grant Self Will of Sanctity. So this makes it sound like the Will of Sanctity, of course, increases self damage reduction and allies holy damage, whereas the Frenzy increases self speed and attack. So it's kind of weird because the Frenzy is the offensive form, which makes sense. He goes faster, he has more attack value. That stuff's really, really cool. However, Will of Sanctity honestly almost sounds better because of that damage reduction. Just putting like a regular base fearless armor on him, or crown, like gold, just regular golden crown, you're getting damage reduction at the beginning of the round, because again, this says if self has less than a certain energy, that most likely means less than 100, whereas if you have 100 energy, you get the offensive form. So it's really interesting because it does double down. Two of the recommended artifacts they said were Melodic and Demon Bell, and I think that comes down to wanting to put him in the sense of frenzy with that 100 energy right away. So again, maybe Melodic Strings actually becomes something crazy good on this hero, but it does look like you have two different routes. You go the extreme offensive route where you're getting more speed and attack, and you can go with the Melodic style, or you go with the Crown style and you go for less than 100 energy in the first round, and you're getting bonus damage reduction and increasing all allies holy damage, which should include himself. Typically anytime they say that, that's usually what happens. Now beyond this is interesting as well because Eloise is actually one of the tenants too. So running this type of duo might be something that is viable. I actually it sounds like an interesting play here. Like, I don't know if it would be good necessarily to have like him as the main homeowner, and then of course you have the tenant Eloise, which usually all your power wants to be it. It does say at the same time Williams will be the #1 tenant for Patricia, and the #2 tenant for Yormtum and Luna, and the #3 tenant for I think Geester, and the #4 tenant for Betty. So he's not going to any of the older heroes. I was kind of like low-key hoping that he would actually be a tenant for Eloise as well. That would be absolutely crazy good. But just looking at this skill set right here, like, I'll be honest, this looks pretty dang good. This looks pretty solid. Out of all the heroes we've had, he has very basic abilities. He hits multiple targets with this active skill, which then also turns into healing. He can also do additional stuff. Like I said, if he's under that frenzy state when he starts with Melodic Strings, gets it off right away, he's going to bleed the target several times, deal attack damage, and increase self, which is cool. Otherwise, if he does the Will of Sanctity version, he's still doing extra damage and increasing more holy damage, which is nice. For several rounds. Yeah, it does say several rounds. It has damage reduction built in. It has a healing component on his basic attack. All these things just kind of sound like they add up to being something really, really special, and I'm hoping this works out. So be prepared. We have an account that is early game, has 2,000 scrolls on it. We only have through Abyss like Sealand 4 done. So we're going to be able to test this hero from like the E3 stages like we do with Eloise, all the way up to higher stages to see what exactly this hero can do in the early game. This is going to be a ton of fun. I love seeing heroes like this, and I just want somebody to be better than Eloise finally. Like, come on, man. How many years have we been stuck using Eloise? I don't know about you. I like just occasionally playing like a brand new account for like 3 to 6 months. It's a nice little refresher, and it gets the feel for what the game feels like as a new player. And it can be a ton of fun. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll see you guys next time.